there was an excitement already after reading the script and then like just touching down in South Africa. You don't realize how far away you are from home and that we're all still very much connected. So the craft is the craft. Acting is the same whether I'm here in LA or in Durban or in Southwest Asia. You know what I mean? It's acting. Everybody understands it, even if there's a language barrier to a degree. So it was great. And the ensemble element, you know what I mean? Work with people whether I know them or not and still bring something together that feels good every time I see it.
All right, y'all, so let's get into it. I want to know, first of all, Chuck and Bree, why did y'all do this in South Africa? I'm like, we got all kinds of places to do Christmas. Why are we doing it in South Africa?
Because we were told not to.
Who told you not to?
Well, when we were working on this is a third of a 3-part franchise, and we knew that the third project had to be a destination. And so when we spoke to our executives at BT and we said, hey, we're thinking we're going to go somewhere super sexy. No. They said, hey, where are they going to go for the destination? Are you thinking like Utah, Colorado? I was like, no.
Not Utah.
It's got to be tropical if it's going to take us out of our house. Something sexy. So he said, okay, well, Florida, we're like a little sexier. Keep going over that way. And that's how we ended up being there. We were actually brought to South Africa July of 23 to to speak on the panel at Durban Film Art Film Festival. But then I think earlier that year, we had taught a master class at Johannesburg Film Festival. And so they invited us to come and see how beautiful their country was and how beautiful KZN region, which is on the Indian Ocean, just so beautiful. And we saw so many different locations and met some amazing people, and we just knew.
And while we were on the tour, Bree looked at me and said, while we were in the van, she said that we're going to shoot here, and started writing the script as we were looking at locations.
Yeah.
Okay, Bree, you're a woman about the action. I see.
Listen,
Oh,
let's get it down. Right, if it's going on, let's get it down. If it's going down, let's get it on, right?
Cool. So before I get to the lovely director and our actors that we have here, I want to talk to you about the name of this company, Octet Productions. It's such an unusual name. Where did it come from?
Well, we have 8 kids.
Ooh,
so,
CT.
Oh, so y'all like the Brady Bunch with 2 more added on. Okay.
Yeah,
Bargain
2.0. 2.0.
We have 4 boys and 4 girls.
Yeah, I brought 4 girls to the marriage, and Chuck brought 4 boys, and we've been together for all this, just forever. So when we started, we loved Octet, just something that represented our children. But then on top of that, if you take an 8 and you turn it over to its side, it's the infinity side. And that's God's love, no ending, no beginning. And that's why we came up with Octet.
Let me tell people all the time, we're very spiritual. So we move how we are told to move, and where we're told to move, and when we're told to move.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Patricia Cuffie-Jones. Hello, my sister.
Hello, my sister. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you and good to be seen. Now, I know you direct a lot in the independent film space. And tell me why you do that and what you enjoy about having the autonomy to do so in that space.
I love telling stories, and I love being able to tell stories with the people I want to tell stories with. And being in an independent space allows me to work with people no matter what the budgets are. It helps me to expand on the vision. It helps me to tell a variety of stories. And most importantly, just help put a lot of people to work. So the more that I'm able to do, the more that other people can do. And it's just a great opportunity.
And how did you collaborate with Bree and Chuck on Wesley South Africa Christmas?
Oh, I'm like, I don't know what.
She's like, where do I start?
This is story. So, no, it's such a layered question. So, I've known Bree and Chuck for years. Chuck came from the independent theater world, Broadway, all of that. I worked as his assistant several years ago. We toured together, and it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. He was one of the best bosses ever. I learned so much working with him. And once the tour ended, I moved to LA, so I started continuing to hone my craft. And he was aware of what I was doing. He would fly in, and they came to see my plays and everything. So when Bree had the idea to do this film, I was the first person that she thought of to come in and direct it. And I was also their first project for Octet. We did first two projects. We did 2 stage plays for VOD, and when she was ready to transition into film, I was the first one.
Yeah.
And it was an honor, and it was a family affair.
I was just about to say it's a family affair, which brings you gave me the greatest segue ever, which brings me to the family. Hey, fam. Now, Bohang, I know you just got in from South Africa, right? On a 24-hour flight.
I did.
This brother flew almost a whole day to get to y'all.
I literally just landed, so yeah. It's good to be here, though. Thank you guys for coming through.
Cool. I want to talk to you about what was the craziest thing that you have learned about Americans being South African, and about Americans in our culture and how we navigate and our cuisine, because it's very different than what y'all do in South Africa.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like worlds apart, literally. The craziest thing I think that we all observed is how you guys own the space that you're in. A lot of people will interpret that as being loud, but it's actually just a confidence that you guys walk into the room with. That's the one thing that really stuck out. Everyone from crew and cast just had this innate confidence within themselves and belief in their abilities, and it just showed in the way they carried themselves and the way that they walked into a room. So that's one thing, because as South Africans, Africans in general, actually, we tend to be very, we're conditioned to be more apologetic, more welcoming. It's I want to say it's a mixture of apologetic in a way, but also the positive side of it, I guess, is a lot more welcoming. But I think the apologetic side comes from our history. It's the conditioning of, don't take up too much space because you don't want to offend someone else. It's sort of that conditioning that's carried through from generation to generation. So when someone else comes with that bold confidence, it's like, oh wow, what's that? What do they eat? Yeah. So, and speaking of food, I mean, obviously, we are influenced by a lot of African culture, a lot of some Dutch as well. So our food is way different. I'm still keen to try sweet potato pie. Apparently.
What?
Apparently, it's great.
You have not had sweet potato pie?
Listen, I have.
They thought they made one because we had it on set.
Yeah.
They thought they made one. So once we all had the American cast, and they were so excited. The South African cast was so excited. Like, oh,
Yeah,
sweet potato
I was
pie.
like,
They were killing
"Whoa,
it.
my- this
And
is
me and the other
great."
cast members were like,
That's not
oh, yeah,
it.
this ain't it.
What was it?
It was missing a nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon. It was missing some of the elements. It was sweet potato
But it
and
was-
a pie.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
Right. Yeah. So I need to explore and try some of those dishes. I'm looking forward to
Back with a
it.
recipe.
Yes, sir.
Now, we're going to have to make you a sweet potato pie, baby, and send you back with
Please
one, because
do,
that's just
please
not
do.
right. That's just not right. Right? So while I have the two brothers, let's talk about the fact that this family centers around a business. And we don't often see Black people in business like this, and focused with the sister in the mix, right? And the sister, Novi Brown, who's not with us because she got a gig, but we're going to talk about her anyway. I love the fact that usually it's the brothers that are making the decision and the sister's trying to squeeze her way up in there. But this time in this story, it's the sister that is making the decisions with the brothers. And I was telling Chuck when we were sitting backstage that your dynamic in this film reminds me so much of Jerry Buss. Are you guys familiar with who Jerry Buss was?
I will be the first to say no.
Let me break it down for you. Jerry Buss was the owner of the Lakers here in LA. And he has 3 kids, 2 guys and a girl. And his daughter, Jeannie Buss, was always trying to prove that she could handle this business better than her brothers, but her father would always give the business stuff to her brother. So I love the fact that the dynamic was flipped for this one. Did that ever run across y'all's minds in the process of shooting this or reading the script? I'll start with Terayle.
It went across mine. There's literally a line that you guys saw Gugu say when they were shopping for their dad, where she's like, every team has its leader. And he was like, hey, you're the leader? She's like, yeah, I'm the leader. It's something that I really appreciated. I grew up in a house, or a family predominantly with women. And I think even to the history, whether it's Black or African, there's a leadership that's innately inside of the Black woman that I really appreciate showing in the script. Obviously, her leadership came from an era of distrust, but I think anybody with suspicions, you have an opportunity to break the mold. So I'm happy that there was an opportunity to bridge the gap and kind of show that we are trustworthy people. But I have no problem people double checking and making sure people are good in business, because people ain't always good in business.
No, whether they family or not. That's true.
Exactly.
That is true.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to work with the OGs, Dorian and Jasmine and TC Carson? Yeah, I'm talking to y'all.
Yeah.
They know who they are. I'm talking to y'all.
I'm gonna go first for this one, if that's
I'm talking
okay.
to the newbies. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I've said this on. I think I said this yesterday at the last screening. Maybe some of you guys are just now meeting the Wesleys, but this is a franchise where there's a first and a second. Where if you haven't seen them, you might have missed on a little bit of context. Everybody didn't start off in relationships. People didn't start off married, but there was always a business, and that's kind of how the first movie begins. But to the point of the question, I've been working with them for the last 3 films, and the first time I met them, it was just like overwhelming, because they raised me to what I mean, and it was something like very grounding about being around them, because they're legend status, right? But there's a levy of information and knowledge they have about this industry and this world, and you see that when they're on set, how they communicate with cast and crew. I think even before action, you're on set and you're working. You know what I mean? The way you communicate with crew sometimes will get you the job next time. You know what I mean? And Jazz and Dorian and TC are just pillars of good business in the way that you conduct yourself, right? But obviously getting to share the screen with them for the last 3 films has been one of the happiest things that I can say. I'm gonna tell my grandkids about that. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that.
Yeah. So there's the work that makes you want to step up and feel like you are qualified to share the screen with them. But then there's like, wow, we really family after this. We ate every night in Africa. Like, we went out to the bar. We ate. We ain't talking about the African food.
She fixed her clothes when she said we ate.
Yeah, we for sure did. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, it's definitely a humbling thing for me growing up in America and having knowledge of who they were. I'm not sure if you guys were receiving a different world and all of that stuff out there. Okay, yeah. So you can definitely speak.
Yeah,
to
go
it
ahead
too,
and speak
but-
to that.
Yeah, for sure. For us, it was huge because we've seen these people on our screens since we were young, and you see them in person, and it's like it's almost like a surreal moment, and you have to catch yourself. Well, at least me, I had to be like, okay, I'm actually at work. I have to focus, and I think it brought out a determination in me to just bring my A game, and that's what happens when you work with people who are great at what they do. They bring out the best in you. You've got no choice but to step up and bring your A game. So and just touching on what Terayle said as well, I think what I really appreciated about them is that you just observe them between takes and how they behave on set. They're so humble, down to earth, approachable, but also I was watching Jasmine Guy between takes, and just like being a sponge and learning how to behave with the crew, and how to carry yourself as an actor, especially when you're leading a project. It's a big thing, because you sort of set the tone of the environment on set when you're leading it as well. So yeah, for us it was super exciting. There was not a single person on our side who wasn't hyped up about having them 3 working with us, but also the rest of the cast. We were just as excited to work with the rest of the cast, because every single person is amazing at what they do.
Yes, y'all really are, including yourself. Bree and Chuck, was it difficult to get permits to shoot in South Africa, being Americans?
Well, the way that we worked is that we had a South African partner. This is an Octet production, but when we were in South Africa in the July before we came to shoot, we were able to meet great people, and working with them and identifying the locations, just remembering what we had seen before, like the house where the Wesleys were. Wasn't that house beautiful? Oh my gosh, it was so stunning. And I hadn't even thought about it being the house. And this is when we were doing the tour, and she said, we can shoot here. I said, Chuck, we have to come back. We got to make this happen. I don't know what else we can do, but we got to shoot here because it's so stunning. And I think one of the things is there's such a misconception about what South Africa looks like. And the fact that there's so much beauty, there's so much affluence, there's so much everything that you have here, it's there. I dare say better.
Much
I mean, it's
much better.
amazing.
It's much better.
You're right.
You know, and it's just like, it just opens
shade,
people's
but-
eyes
Shade.
to what's out there. So, yeah, so they were very helpful, very instrumental in getting it done. And we had a lot of support in that when we found locations, they were very quick to work with us to get the permits. So we appreciate that.
I always ask that because I know when you're an independent production that sometimes that can be problematic. And there are people in this room that possibly want to, start their own projects. And so that's a very important question to have addressed.
Yeah, and to that point, Chuck and I started our production company in D.C., so a lot of the movies that we produce, aside from this one, which was in South Africa, we shot here in L.A., we shot in New York and Atlanta as well, but primarily it's D.C. And because the infrastructure when we first started wasn't there, any big movie was coming with all their crew and all of the equipment. So there just wasn't the level of sophistication. So we kind of moved in ignorance because we didn't know not to ask to shoot in the African American Museum or not to ask to shoot on the White House grounds. So we would ask and they would say yes. So we were like, hey, great. And that was the story. So we have this level of ignorance is bliss. Just you have not because you ask not. And we were the first to shoot on the at the Nelson Mandela capture site. This was the first time they ever opened up the museum to be shot in. We were the first to shoot on the Royal Crow, at the Royal Crow. And I mean, in Ulundi, we were there. That was our last day of shooting. They had never, the Queen Mother who welcomed us and said, please stay forever, that was really her Royal Highness Queen Thandi. I mean, it was just like, yeah, hey, what if we do that? They're like, we talked to the prince one day. It was like 3 a.m. because, the time difference. And he got us on the phone. And our partner, MQ, said, yeah, so get up because I want you to speak to my boy, the prince. And we were like, oh, his name is Prince. Okay, cool. And so we were on the phone and she's like, Your Royal Highness, will you please meet? I was like, oh my gosh, it's a prince. And so I was freaking out and he was like, so we told him what we were trying to do. Remember, ignorance is bliss. You have not because you ask not. So we said, hey, we would love to really show some real authentic, your culture, some of your dances and just the way you celebrate, the way you love on each other, just your community. And he said, I had a premonition last week that the world was going to come knocking and I was led to say yes. So yes.
That's amazing.
But they did come down and screen us as soon as we got to South Africa. They were like a 4 hour ride away, and he had his driver bring him down, and we spent about 3.5, 4 hours just sitting, and I felt like I was in an interview. But it was great to really get a understanding of the way he was thinking, and so we can mesh the two. It was just like with going to South Africa and shoot. It was very important for us to first identify the differences, and then get an understanding of the differences, and then we can figure out how to make those differences an asset instead of a liability. And that's what this is about. This is not about a project. This is a movement that we're making to close the diaspora. So that being said, we had so much favor from the prince, the Queen Mother, to the Nelson Mandela site that we knew that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And now we're planning to go back.
I want to
week.
go.
Come on, girl. You know you
Come on, give me a ride. Okay, I'm just playing. You mind if I call you Cuffie?
Sure.
Okay, so Cuffie, I want to talk to you about how you collaborated with the costumes, to get the costumes together for the film, because they were so beautiful and authentic and just lovely and luscious to look at.
Well, we had meetings with not only the costume designer from South Africa, but Octet's head costume designer. She led the way and pulled the pieces together, and then her team, they were there on the ground. They went shopping. They got stuff off the streets. Everything was authentic to that culture. It was authentic to that tribe, because there were certain things that we thought, one of the actors brought something that was Afrocentric that they thought they could wear in the scene for Zulu.
I was going to say, was it the Zulu tribe?
The Zulu tribe, and it was like, no. You can't.
West African. It was something like, probably more like Nigerian, what have you. So it was distinguishable. So,
and they were like, unfortunately, you can't do that. And she's like, but it's beautiful. It's African, yes, but it's
It needs to be specific.
Right.
To the
So they had to
tribe,
pull something together and get the pieces that were specific to that tribe. So we were definitely very intentional. The fashion in South Africa is just amazing, period. Like, I don't know if you guys watch any South African films or the magazines, but they're fly out there. So we were definitely ready to match their fly. But the ladies got together and they just created a beautiful tapestry of culture merged together, and it was really effortless.
I love that. And the reason I asked is because I had the opportunity to be exposed to South African culture when I was doing The Lion King here in LA. So I always, when I see something that has taken place there or is surrounded by that, I always ask. So thank you for answering that. Chuck and Bree, I'm gobsmacked at the types of issues that you guys threw in this in a short period of time. We're talking about postpartum depression. We're talking about fertility. We're talking about adoption. We're talking about a lot of things that for us as Black people usually are associated with, downtrodden drama, but it's centered around realism and humor and love and faith. And I just wanted to know, what was the inspiration to do that?
Life. I think when the holidays come around, sometimes, we're always talking about celebrating and being happy, but life is still lifing. And so, people go through things, and you want to be the safest place you should feel that you can go through things is with family. And so during the holidays is sometimes when you're with your family to share what you're going through. And I just feel like when there's an opportunity to entertain, there's also an opportunity to educate. So we call it edutain. And so to us, it's important that, we deal with real issues and, all kinds of issues. And that's just how life shows up. And so sometimes people are watching something and they take something else. It was interesting. We had our first premiere in Washington, D.C. And at the reception, this young lady came up to me and said, I was the Dingani. I was adopted at 17. I lived in a foster home or in a facility all my life and had no one. And at 17, my parents adopted me. And thank you for sharing that, because people don't understand. They forget. After we're a certain age, you're like, well, you're almost an adult. You'll be fine. But you don't have a family. And I had that experience. So thanks for sharing that. And that's important, to let people be seen,
Yeah, I like the fertility issue too, because that's another issue that is really about to switch up and change here in America in particularly. So I love that you paid some homage to that. I love that the family dynamics with the Christmas was different. That this family celebrated it this way, this family celebrated it that way. Mama Wesley was like all about the decorations and all the things. Right. So when she comes into the place that they're staying for in South Africa, her eyes just light up like a Christmas tree. And I loved seeing that, because Christmas is not just only the birth of Jesus Christ, but it is a day to be celebrated and bring families together.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? To celebrate those that are with us, to celebrate those that we've lost, to celebrate the new lives that may be coming into the family. And I got all of that from watching your film. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just want to talk about one more thing, the chemistry between the kids and all of the cast members. Did you guys have to rehearse beforehand, or did you just come in and hit it guns a-blazing? And I'll talk with Cuffie about how she approaches that process with the cast.
It was different for each film. Specifically with this one, it was different because it was different circumstances surrounding the various days and sets and things going on. I do make time to rehearse with them, sometimes the same day. I did connect with talent outside of that. The American side, they're very familiar with each other, so that was easy. But once we shot our first scene, when we had the American and South African actors together, we're like, oh, this is going to be cake, because they were bringing just as much life to the characters. They were bringing the same level of professionalism, and they were passionate artists, just like our American actors. So they were able to move with the pacing, because, with these kind of shoots, it's very fast paced. We don't have days of rehearsals. We don't have sometimes hours of rehearsal. But I was familiar with the South African actors, a lot of their work, so I knew what I'll be able to pull out of them and what they can do. And I already knew my Wesley family. So The chemistry was really easy, and it didn't take a lot to pull it all together.
How about you guys getting symbiotic with your sister?
I'll say that there was an excitement already after reading the script and then like just touching down in South Africa. We knew we were there for work, and I mean, maybe some people viewed it as like vacation. I didn't, because I know how many days we were shooting that I was actually going to be on set. But it felt like still like the easiest work I've ever done because of the amount of excitement I had just being on the continent. So by the time I shook hands with like Bohang or Jesse or Terayle, Ayanda, anybody from the cast, it was like I'm an instant friend and an instant fan, because we got to see their profiles. Like, oh, he popping. All right, the entire African cast has thousands and thousands and hundreds and thousands of followers, and we saw y'all walking through the airport, so I knew it was a thing. Like just on posters and stuff. But again, to the point about working with Jasmine, Dorian, TC, there's this. All right, I gotta do my best. Even if this is kind of more of a funny, quirky, corny kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? I still got to like try my best, bring a certain level of energy. But that chemistry was there at Hello. You know what I mean? I did have some preconceptions that were wrong. Like, I didn't know what kind of music, I didn't know y'all had access to the same exact music that we had. You know what I'm saying? We over here, there was one scene, I'm not going to say what song we were singing, but there was a talent show where it was me, me, Bohang, and Jesse's characters, and we in there, and that was my first time realizing, oh yeah, y'all got Kanye and Jay-Z too.
You're funny.
Nah, but I'm saying like that should be like a no-brainer, but it was like a 30-hour travel to get there, so you don't realize how far away you are from home, and that we're all still very much connected. So the craft is the craft. Acting is the same whether I'm here in LA or in Durban or in Southwest Asia. You know what I mean? It's acting. Everybody understands it, even if there's a language barrier to a degree. So it was great. It was honestly, like I said, a moment for me in my career to own the idea that I could lead a project, but also like in the ensemble element, you know what I mean? Work with people whether I know them or not, and still bring something together that feels good every time I see it. So.
Look at you being all deep and prolific.
Okay.
Oh, Carla,
I wouldn't say that, but thank you so much.
It's really difficult to be on one of our sets and not feel like it's in a family environment. Like we only know one way to be. We got 8 kids, so we live our life every day as a family, and we bring that mentality very present in all of our work. Anytime we're shooting, whatever it is, big or small, we bring that same energy that we have in our home. So when we first got to South Africa, when we wanted everybody to meet, we always throw a welcome dinner for the
cast, usually.
Feast. We call it
feast
for the cast and our crew, because we understand the crew is just as important as the people that's in front of the camera. And so we had it in South Africa, and when Bree and I got there, all the crew was like outside. The South African crew was outside, and the cast was inside, and we were like, well,
right.
And Bree can't walk anywhere without voicing everything that she has in her. So she was like, oh no, let's all come in here. We're going to sit around the table. And we're all eating together. We're fellowshipping together now, and we're going to get to know each other because we're going to be a family on the set. And then every day before we start our day, we say a prayer. We're in a big circle with cast and crew. And the first day, you could tell like all the South African crew and cast are on this side of the circle, and then the American. We only brought six company heads and then 6 of our actors. Everybody else was South African, because it was also important for us to not just take, to give. So
support, yeah.
Exactly. So then all the Americans were on my side. So then as each day went along, you can see it started being the South Africans with the African actors, the crew. Yeah. And by the last day, you couldn't tell who was who. Like we were all really one big family. Like we have Octet family over there now. We really believe that.
Wait, funny quick story. Just 2 days ago, one of our line producer was on another set, and they had the Octet Productions T-shirt on that says South Africa Octet Productions. He's like, "You all are being represented in South Africa. Y'all have been long gone." It's just so nice that we really do feel like we have a support system, we have a family, and we have an obligation to go back and do more.
I love that. I think that is the perfect place to end the conversation, because I feel like I'm part of the Octet family right now.
You are now. And have you heard?
Have I heard?
Yeah, it's only one way to get out.
We love you in, but we gotta jump you out.
Why you sounded like the mafia?
We gotta jump you out.
He's not joking.
You are hilarious. I want to thank Bree and Chuck and Cuffie and Bohang and Terayle for joining me in this discussion centered around
you
West
for
and South
having
African
us.
Christmas.